Welcome. Good morning. My name is Cindy Loudon, and I use she, her pronouns. I serve this congregation on the Adult RE and Social Justice Committees. I'm leading this morning's service as worship associate. Welcome to our special place. At the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of the Quad Cities, we welcome all people into our beloved community of whatever age, race, class, ethnicity, physical ability, sexual orientation, gender identity, or religious background. We welcome especially those joining us for the first time. We invite everyone to join us downstairs after service for coffee, snacks, and conversation. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you, choir and gates. Good morning.
Good morning.
I am Reverend Sabrina, and I use they, them pronouns. Our opening words today are from Eleanor Westbrook. In a world ravaged by violence, by hatred, by conflicts that seem eternal and insoluble, sometimes the only thing we can do is be still for a moment, to remind ourselves what is real. The sun that rose this morning, the dirt under our feet, the air whispering in and out of our lungs. This hour or so, just try to be present in each moment as it unfolds. Your simple attention is what makes these moments holy. Now, as Cindy lights our chalice, let's all recite our chalice lighting words in the screen, projected on the screen. In the light of truth and in the warmth of love, we gather to seek, to sustain, and to inspire. And now please rise in body or spirit for our opening song, number 354 in the gray hymnal, O Come All Ye Faithful. The lyrics will all be projected on the screen, but I think you know it, right? And now, in the spirit of love and fellowship, we greet the holy in the midst by briefly greeting those around us, and especially those we don't know.
Children, come forward. All right, good morning, everybody. So I'm Brian Tufte, filling in for Tiffany this morning, and do Words for All Ages with the children. Words for All Ages with everybody, of course. So, my friends, what do you think of when you hear the word presents? What do you think? Presents. What's that? A gift? Right now? Oh, okay, good. A birthday present? What you say to your teacher? Very good. Christmas? Yeah. Like the time, kind of? Like the present time? Yeah. So presents is one of those words, has some different meanings. So it's oh yeah, go ahead. Yeah, somebody presents something. So, like I said, it's one of those words, sounds the same, it's got a lot of different meanings. So I was expecting, and I got a lot of answers that said things like material things or gifts, because that's the season, right? But we're going to talk about a slightly different spelling of that word, presence, being present, being with someone, being in the moment. That can be being in the moment with yourself, so kind of like a centering of your energy, centering of your thoughts, or it can be being there for someone else, giving your presence, i.e. your time, your energy, your attention to someone else. So that's one thing we're going to talk about a little bit downstairs, is how to be present. One of the things we are working on in the Magic of a UU course, we are starting a food drive. We're going to start small with something. We're just going to do a little collection here, and Tiffany's arranging this. We're going to give that to Edwards, the Congregational Church over that way a little bit. There may be other things in the future, but we have been talking about food insecurity and how that affects people. We watched a short video last week. We'll watch another short video this week. But that's one of the things, we want to be present for people. That's one of the ways we can be present for people with our presence, not just our gifts, but our time, and maybe a little bit of food and other support that we can give our community members. And with that, let's go downstairs, children. Thank you.
We come together as a community to share the joys, the concerns, the sorrows, and the milestones of our lives. At this time of sharing, we take a moment to read your entries from the Book of Joys and Concerns, which is located at the entrance of the sanctuary all week except now. Today, we have no concerns on the book. Is there any concerns online?
No.
That's a good day. So for today's joys, we have Alice Trailer and many others are wishing happiness to James on being a new citizen. Join us for cake after the service. What? There's cake. Nobody told me that there would be cake. And this is from Lori McCollum. Thanks to Ann Harrington for organizing, spoiler alert, the hanging of the greens today after service. There will be an announcement again at the end of the service. Are there any joys online? No, not a ma'am. For what has been shared and for what remains in the quiet sanctuary of our hearts, we are grateful. Let us be in a spirit of prayer and meditation as I read this prayer by Reverend Dr. Rebecca Parker called Winter Solstice. Perhaps for a moment, the typewriters will stop clicking, the wheels will stop rolling, the computers desist from computing, and a hush will fall over the city. For an instant in the stillness, the chiming of the celestial spheres will be heard as Earth hangs poised in the crystalline darkness and then gracefully tilts. Let there be a season where holiness is heard and the splendor of living is revealed. Stunned to stillness by beauty, we remember who we are and why we are here. There are inexplicable mysteries. We are not alone. In the universe, there moves a wild one whose gestures alter Earth's axis toward love. In the immense darkness, everything spins with joy. The cosmos enfolds us. We are caught in a web of stars, cradled in a swaying embrace, rocked by the holy night, babes of the universe. Let this be the time we wake to life, like spring wakes in the moment of winter solstice. And now let us become aware of the energy that brings us together here in beloved community as we share a time of silent meditation. May we open our hearts and minds to a place of quiet and engage in silent prayer for the healing of pain and the balm of love. When the musical meditation begins, you're invited to come forward in silence and light a candle.
congregation is a theologically diverse religious community with membership open to all who are in accord with our values. Our congregation is entirely self-governed by the democratic process. One of the privileges of our free church tradition is to provide all of the financial support for our many ministries from among ourselves. Generosity, therefore, is one of the spiritual values we recognize as central to our personal and our institutional well-being. This month's undesignated plate offering will go towards the UUCQC Christmas bonuses, staff Christmas bonuses. We invite you now to participate in the blessing of giving as the ushers come among you to accept the gifts of the congregation. Please be as generous as you are able. For all the gifts of time and treasure that you give to this congregation, with sincere gratitude, we thank you. These are the instructions from the Satipatthana Sutta. A sutta is a discourse, in this case on sati, or mindfulness. When walking, the monk discerns, I am walking. When standing, he discerns, I am standing. When sitting, he discerns, I am sitting. When lying down, he discerns, I am lying down. Or however his body is disposed, that is how he discerns it. When going forward and returning, he makes himself fully alert. When looking toward and looking away, when bending and extending his limbs, when carrying his outer cloak, his upper robe, and his bowl, when eating, drinking, chewing, and savoring, when walking, standing, sitting, falling asleep, waking up, talking, and remaining silent, he makes himself fully alert.
Welcome to the second Sunday of Advent. The season of Advent in the Christian calendar is a time of reflection when we're waiting and preparing, or the Christians among us are preparing for the birth of Jesus, technically what is known as the incarnation of God into human form. And we do so at a time of the year in the Northern Hemisphere when animals and plants are going to sleep. They too are preparing for growing and germinating and whatever they do in spring and summer. This is an interesting combination of seasonal and theological practices. If we relate our embodied practices to the spiritual ones, which we should, because the body is part of us, just like the spirit. So, in other words, the earth is showing us what the earth shows us it does around the winter solstice, again, in the Northern Hemisphere. We humans mirror with traditions that speak to our spirit. So in the Christian tradition, when we take all the candles and the hymns and the baubles away from the season of Advent, what remains is the spiritual preparation. And what is this spiritual preparation? Is we wait for spiritual rebirth. So you don't need to be a Christian to appreciate that. But let me ask you, is this waiting for a sense of spiritual rebirth what comes to mind first when we think about the holiday season? Anyone? No? Okay. Yeah, right, I know. Then what are we waiting for? Over the years, maybe over the centuries, the waiting has transformed. It has turned into waiting for something in the future, waiting for something better, waiting for something bigger, or waiting for a day when we magically gain acceptance of ourselves, become the wise, famous, or beautiful person that we imagine we could be. There's this song by artist Amanda Palmer, who's a singer-songwriter and controversial artist who has two things going for her in my book. She got me interested in playing the ukulele, and she has this song that I love called In My Mind about all these aspirations that she has. They're, well, in her mind. And the final verse of this song, which is relevant here, this verse says, and in my mind, I imagine so many things that aren't really happening. And when they put me in the ground, I'll start pounding the lid, saying, I haven't finished yet. I still have a tattoo to get that says I'm living in the moment. Very relatable. You see, this is what transformed. This is how the waiting has changed. There used to be this waiting to be reborn spiritually, and then there's also the waiting that makes us project into the future because the present is not good enough. We are never going to get that tattoo because we're not really living in the moment, and maybe because we don't want to live in the moment because there's too much to do and we have too many things and we are distracted all the time. I've been on this side of the Atlantic for a long time. So I've overcome most of the culture differences, the culture shock, if you will, that people experience when moving to a new country. However, there is one cultural habit that I still cannot really seem to adjust to. It still kind of bothers me. It's that thing when two people passing by each other, like in a corridor or on the road, this happens at work or at school, anywhere people are moving into opposite direction, and one says, "How are you?" and keeps walking. Now, when this happened to me when I first moved to North America, I used to stop, turn around, and start, "Oh yeah, I'm okay. I went hiking last week." And by the time I finished talking, the person was out of sight, gone. And so it took me forever to get that "how are you" wasn't meant to be real. It was just a greeting. Something apparently people say instead of hello, or, a wave, or a nod of the head. There's more like my style, or an acknowledgement of any kind. So now, I know this now, and I mostly respond as expected by convention. But I still think about how would it look if the other person had time to stop. And I wonder. I've tried to see if I can break this kind of magical spell of "how are you" and move away. When sometimes I fire back, "I'm good, how are you?" Which sometimes stops a person for a second to reflect. It's like unexpected. It's a small difference, but it allows for a moment of space, sometimes. Immediacy is all there seems to be in our culture right now. We want everything perfect, everything yesterday, everything to happen at the moment we want it. I read that on average we check our phones 260 times per day. I believe it. I think it's a low estimate, but we don't want to wait. And if we do wait, we wait for something, a thing, a gift, an experience, which ends up never being what we were hoping for, or maybe something that may not satisfy us. And of course, I'm not immune by all this. I want everything now, everything, and I check my phone, except when I'm preaching, I'm not checking my phone, wanting to launch into this future in my mind, right? Waiting for, or not having enough time to wait. The waiting is something that takes us away from ourselves, this waiting for outside, away from the peaceful abiding of what I described as seeking spiritual renewal. The quiet waiting of the Yule season, of the Advent season, or the waiting of the gardening aficionados who wait to plant, wait after planting, and are in tune with the movements of the season, and so they don't mind waiting. So what can we do? I know that you probably intuited this maybe from the reading, and maybe you already know this, that one antidote, maybe the antidote for distraction, is to practice mindfulness. So let's do it. Let's practice mindfulness. As a reminder, mindfulness is defined as the awareness that arises from paying attention on purpose in the present moment, non-judgmentally. This is a definition given by John Kabat-Zinn, who was a mindfulness instructor. And then I wanted to also say that mindfulness is different from the moment of silence we just did after joys and concerns, because during mindfulness, we're supposed to pay attention to the present moment with some instruction, like the monk walks when he's walking. The present moment. How long is a moment anyway, right? As someone who practices mindfulness, I can tell you numerically, a moment is about 2 to 3, maybe 4 seconds. But when you're present to the moment, the quantifying becomes meaningless because it is the moment. It is this moment. It is the only time we have. It's not quantifiable. And what's the instruction to be in the moment? Well, a variety of them. But the simplest one is to be present to the breath, to pay attention, if you will, to the breath. Repeat to yourselves, breathe in, breathe out, as you breathe in and breathe out. And now know that your mind will drift away, and the trick is to return to the breath every time you catch yourself drifting away, which will be in long intervals of moments initially, and it will go smaller intervals. But our minds will never be completely empty and clear. That's not the purpose of mindfulness. The purpose of mindfulness is to pay attention. So you don't have to do it perfectly, but this is something we do to be able to be in the moment during our lives, not just on the cushion. So let's try it. Let's breathe in and out, being present to the breath. Let's try it for 5 breaths. Breathe in and out, and in and out, and in and out, and in and out. So mindfulness, now that you've tried it, and I recommend you try this at home too, mindfulness is a meditation technique that prepares us to be present to the moments of our lives, whether they're good, bad, easy, difficult. In my summer of clinical pastoral education, I unexpectedly reaped the benefits of mindfulness, something that I'd up till then cultivated primarily to regulate emotions, because if you can put some time between the feeling and the reaction, that's a good thing too. But when I was at the hospital and I started being a chaplain, student chaplain there, initially I thought the quantity of my experiences was important. After all, we had to write papers on our experiences. And so we had to have a fair number of interactions with patients and families to choose from to write these reports. Made sense that I would be interested in the quantity. However, I've been assigned to the neurology ICU, where a lot of the patients are nonverbal, and when the families weren't present, at first I thought there was nothing to do. At least nothing compared to my classmates that were in other departments where they could listen to stories and listen to the voices of other people, like oncology, emergency, maternity. So initially I tried hurrying from patient to patient, trying to collect something, an experience, which of course didn't happen really, because I wasn't paying attention. And so all I ended up with was rushed and definitely not worth writing a paper about it. Until one day, one of the nurses pointed me to a room occupied by this new patient, and they told me he was a truck driver and his family lived in California, so could I please call all the contacts in his phone to see if anyone could notify the family or see if the family would pick up to come over to make health decision for a person who couldn't do that himself. There were a lot of contacts. And I was the only person available that day that could do that work, because you're not going to ask a nurse or a social worker to do that, and least of all a doctor. So I had to stay put. And one at a time, I call all the numbers. And my day turned into a day of waiting for friends to visit if they were local, waiting for people to pick up the phone, waiting for the doctor to tell me how the patient was doing because the family wanted to know. This took the whole shift. And throughout the day, I had to pay attention to the task at hand. I had to watch my words. I had to keep calling and be present. And at the end of my shift, I realized I'd been present one moment at a time the whole day. And mindfulness to life is like this. When the monk walks, he's walking. When the monk makes phone calls, the monk makes phone calls. That's it. That teaches you to react. But there is more to the waiting I was talking about at the beginning of the sermon, the waiting for Advent, the waiting for spiritual rebirth, this inward waiting. Can mindfulness help with that? Well, it depends on what we do with that mindfulness. Because for this type of mindful, we also need to add a theological element. Okay, this is my usual disclaimer about the word theology and how for Unitarian Universalists, it is not necessarily about God. I know the etymology, but for UUs, the word theology is not necessarily about God. This time, the disclaimer comes in the form of a definition from UU theologian Reverend Dr. Sherry Prudhomme, who says, UU theology is about what it means to be human in the cosmos and how we are related to all there is, including what we hold to be most sacred. How to be human in the cosmos and how we are related to all there is, including what we hold to be most sacred. So mindfulness becomes a tool for theological engagement when it is a tool that makes us experience being human, makes us experience relationships, interconnection, the sacred nature of existence. This moment-by-moment practice can allow us to be active and accountable for the actions we take. This type of mindfulness as a theological tool, is known in Buddhism as active presence. Active presence is mindfulness that takes a moral stance. It is not enough to know that we are morals. We have to accept this moral stance. It is not enough to accept it. We also have to take responsibility for this outlook and to act on our convictions mindfully. And this has a counterpart in a UU theological frame. UU theologian Dr. Sharon Welch defines an ethic of risk as a theology of accountability in action. This is an ethical stance that makes us ask, what improbable task with unpredictable results shall we undertake today? What improbable task with unpredictable results shall we undertake today? And this is how we approach life, relinquishing control, an improbable task, and unpredictable result. So this stance is about moving from an ethic of control where we have that the intent is more important than effect, to an ethic of risk in which we have accountability to and with one another, but we don't control the outcome. That is the risk. The risk is we don't control the outcome. But we are accountable for our actions, not just for the intent, but for the effect. While we don't control our past and we don't try to shape the future in our own image, we can learn from past outcomes within this type of moral outlook. And this makes the ethic of risk one where we can move towards a more compassionate present because we learn from our mistake. We learn to accept each other. We know that nobody is perfect. So active presence is then the ultimate way to approach improbable tasks with unpredictable results. Because we're living in the moment. Because we don't know anything about anything else except the present moment. And so active presence embodies an ethic of risk. That day at the hospital, when I was asked to help the patient make the phone calls, that day that I stayed put and somehow managed to pull off an entire day of mindfulness. Well, not an entire day, but like I was mindful a lot more than I had been in the past. I also experienced more connection, more compassion, more sense of care than before, when I rushed from patient to patient, trying to get an experience in, trying to get something that I didn't even know what it was, unwilling to wait for my own spiritual rebirth. But wait, I didn't really do anything. I made a couple of phone calls and I just sat there. Well, it turns out that really just being present to the moment was enough. Enough for my own spiritual growth and for the people that I cared for. Accountability to and with one another. That is the ethic of risk. In the bustle of a busy ICU, taking the time to just be there with those who needed it was enough. And it created more connection. Active presence made my improbable task of helping a stranger produce the unpredictable result of more compassion that day. So what I'm trying to say is that waiting and being present is something we could consider practicing this holiday season. For the season of Advent and Yule, of lights and darkness, of promise and faith. Because not everyone likes the holidays. Not everyone can be happy at this time of year. Not everyone has time off to celebrate the holidays. But active presence, taking that risk, paying attention in the moment, waiting, is what will get us through the holidays. Presence, minute by minute, breath by breath. It will give us the pause and connection we need. So my wish for all of us this season of waiting, as we wait for the holidays and for other things to come after the holidays, whatever they may be, is to be actively present for each other. So may we undertake improbable tasks without being afraid of the unpredictable results, and may we let our presence be the gift this holiday season. May it be so. And now, please rise and embody your spirit for our closing song, number 235 in the gray hymnal, Deck the Halls, which is what we'll be doing in a moment.
Till
remain lifted up as we extinguish the chalice and join in the unison reading. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. You may sit down. We have announcements.
If you have an announcement for a Sunday service, please send it to office@uucqc.org by 12 noon on Thursday before the service. We have a few announcement items. From the Property Committee, there will be a training for all interested members 10 minutes after this service to go over the last person to leave the church instructions. Meet at the front entryway if you are interested. From Ann Harrington, we will be hanging the greens for the holiday season after today's service. If you are 16 plus, you're invited to join us here in the sanctuary. Stay as little or as long as you can. No experience necessary. And an update for those with young children. There will be childcare available downstairs from 12 to 2, thanks to our dedicated childcare staff and volunteers. Parents, please remember to pick your children up promptly at 2 o'clock. See Ann Harrington after service if you have any questions. This is from Stephen Pickerel. The Leadership Development Committee is looking for current leaders and emerging leaders within the church who would like to broaden their leadership skills. Those leaders will be meeting on Saturday, January 18th, and Saturday, January 25th, from 10 a.m. to noon each day. We will be discussing and participating in a few of the workshops and activities that are in the UUA's Harvest the Power curriculum from 2020. Harvest the Power is a UUA program developing leadership in a congregational setting through a deeply spiritual experience. Participation in this year's event is limited to 12 people. The LDC is currently trying to arrange childcare for this event, which will be held exclusively in person. For more information, please email Stephen Pickerel at stephenpickerel7@gmail.com or speak to him during the social hours. Steve, are you here? Okay, so that's Steve. Okay, so touch base with him about that. This is from the Environmental Justice Team. They will be hosting the quarterly vegetarian potluck next Sunday, the 15th, after service in the social hall. They welcome contributions of salads, side dishes, and main entrees. Breads are also welcome. The environmental team reminds you that adding even a few more plant-based meals to our weekly menu is better for your health and the environment. Finally, let me draw your attention to the additional announcements printed on the back of your order of service.
So I'm going to do something that is not really done in your circles. But hey, in January, when I'm here next, the weekend of the 11th of January, there will be a new member recognition and a new member class. So I'm going to do what is known in other churches as an altar call and invite up people who wanted to sign the book. This is the book, if you wanted to sign it. Oh, here's a pen. If you feel moved and you want to become a member, I know there's a couple of people that wanted to sign the book, or if you haven't even thought about it, there will be a class on what it means to become a member that you can take in January. That I'm in it. I'm in this class. So So come on up if you want to sign the book, and after you sign, Gates will do that thing with the piano where he goes pa-bum, which will make it even more exciting. Yeah, that's easier.
Yeah.
There is a book. Look at the book. It has all the numbers of ever since the way. Maybe there's 2 volumes, but this is judging by the pages. So date, print name, and then sign, and then I'll sign all of those. Okay, thank you. Later, so that it doesn't take.
I didn't think I'd need my glasses.
Right. You need the pen. You need the pen. Oh, no, okay. Where is the pen? We need a pen. There's a pen. There you go. There are a lot of pens here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I don't think this one reads. Oh, there it goes. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yay. Woo! Welcome, new members. We're not finished with the service. Here's my closing words. As we go out, let's remember that love means presence, and presence means love. That we all have in ourselves the seeds for unlimited joy, and that the gift of presence or love is all we really need. Go in peace. Amen, and blessed be. You may be seated for the postlude.
Yeah, I got it.